Welcome, gamer. You're dropping into a vast expanse, tasked with discovering what video games have in common with the world around us. This quest might be perilous, but necessary nonetheless. Why are you here? Ready yourself and continue to find out. Spawning in now.
Alright, welcome to Level 4 Player. This is Chuck
And Casey.
with the Knowledge Through Gaming podcast. Today we're going to be playing DLC Quest, which is on Steam. Usually about $2.99 unless you get on sale. Might be a little bit cheaper. It's a cheeky little game that starts you off with only being able to move right, as you'll see here in a moment if you're watching on YouTube. You end up having to purchase all the different options, such as being able to move left, jumping, new sections, being able to do various things that you should be able to do in most of the game. You end up having to collect coins to get to the new areas, which is a lot of coin collecting. Then you'll be able to get to buy the upgrades, which allow you to talk to new people, get new weapons, kill new enemies. And all of this has to be purchased through coins. Shut my thing off. It's not a very long game. I ended up beating it the other guy, or I read bad guy and guy went in my head. I beat it the other night within probably an hour. I'd say if you want to get all the achievements on Steam, maybe a couple hours. It's worth a playthrough. It's got some humor to it. Like there's one part where you'll find a herder who asks you not to kill his sheep. So obviously, what are you going to do? Most people are going to go around killing the sheep. So I don't remember if I killed them all or not, but I ended up trying. Yeah, and you can get 100% within a few, like very short time, I'm sure. The best part is that it mocks modern DLC. A lot of them, especially like EA and stuff, they want to make you pay for everything. And I'm not just calling out just them. There's a lot of companies that do it, and then there's a lot as well that don't, that actually pump out some decent DLC. And there's actually a good reason behind that that we'll find out later on. As of right now, we're going to leave a spot here for our sponsor real quick, just in case it still runs. We might get a new one. Should be Anchor again as always, but we'll take a short break right now for that. All right, and then we're back. And then, yeah, one of the biggest things I saw online while trying to research this, and in most of the articles, points towards the comical and very angering horse armor DLC, which came out for, that was Elder Scrolls. Which one?
Oblivion.
Oblivion. I don't know why I didn't put that down. But yeah, it came out for that. It was essentially just cosmetic, right? It didn't actually add any armor to it.
Oh, yeah, the horse armor. I think it had like some protection, but
I don't ever remember having any issues where my horse died in that game, though, or it was very rare. It's been so long since I've played it that that's why I've forgotten. Most of the articles I read didn't actually mention what it did, just that it was about $2.50, and it angered a lot of people. And then before we get into this, I just want to start off with saying I don't mind paying a little extra for creators to keep earning money, especially once a game's been released, if they're going to pump out some good DLC. One example I can think of is Fallout New Vegas and even Fallout 4. If they were still putting out DLC for either of those games, I would 100% still be playing both of them. Because I had 250 hours in New Vegas alone.
oh my god,
and I haven't even beat that game. That was just from all the vaults going around. And it was a lot of fun. Which one did you just purchase?
I think the time is money one.
Yeah, so you don't have to grind. Yeah.
Now I have a sword.
Oh, yeah, now you can go around and start killing people. I started stabbing the sheep immediately.
Yeah.
Especially because he asks you not to. And then one game, on the other hand, is like Fallout 76. I never really got into that, especially with all the controversy They're still doing that thing, aren't they, where you have to sign up to play single player in Fallout 6 or 76, right?
Yeah, it's like what is it? Fallout First, I think they called it. Can't remember, but yeah, but a
Oh,
lot of people got really upset over that just because they had um, NCR Ranger armor that you could get through that, and then there were like a bunch of exclusive stuff that you could buy if you had the little Fallout First thing. Like, 'cause it was a subscription too. It wasn't just like a one-time purchase.
okay, yeah, because it's like the yearly one where you have to pay for like a year, right?
Yeah.
Which even then, that's not the only issue I've seen with them lately. Like we could point towards that one, but then they tried to release like a bottle of alcohol too, and it was shaped like one of the Nuka-Cola bottles, I think. But the bottle ended up being like cheap plastic, so it was essentially this alcohol in like a cheap plastic bottle when they said it was going to be like, or I don't know if they said it was going to be glass, but they definitely kind of pointed towards that it was going to be quality. Plus, all the bottles in the game are glass, so obviously your first thought is going to be it's going to be glass.
Ah, look at that. Armor for your horse pack.
Yep. That one's expensive. That's one of the last ones you end up getting.
I think
And then,
even for like the collector's edition of Fallout 76, they ran into issues because of the bags they released.
yeah, they ended up releasing like a cheap, like alternative to what they were promising, like some high quality nylon or something, and they ended up cheaping out on that too.
No, I think it's the bags ended up being nylon. They were supposed to be like canvas bags.
Oh, okay. That could be. Yeah, I remember seeing that. I didn't look too much into it. Fallout 76 just never caught my appeal. I loved like just single player. I'm not one for multiplayer because you get too many people who go in there and want to be jackwagons and screw with you while you try to play, and just I've always never been a fan of multiplayer.
Yeah. No, me neither.
But a few articles I actually read made an interesting point that stated that microtransactions, which we'll talk about these more in length, actually go back to the 70s with arcade machines, because there's a few machines where you can essentially beat the entire game in one playthrough, like 25-50 cents, but there's some games that were essentially so hard that there was no way you could beat them in one life, so you'd end up paying at least a couple dollars just to beat them, which the articles stated that essentially this was microtransactions because in a sense, obviously they got to pay for electricity and make the game and stuff, but
Yeah.
if you're going to pay, you might as well be able to have the chance to beat it in one go, and some games weren't actually like that.
Those monsters.
I know. There's even statements about remakes or re-releases being a way that companies take advantage of hardcore gamers, and that I see and don't see. Like when you and I tried to play that Star Wars Battlefront for the PS2, that game did not age well at all. That was atrocious and made me ill just trying to play that game. The graphics ended up getting so blurred. It's probably because of the size of the TV, which I was thinking of later on, but even then, you're not going to be able to find much smaller TVs than the one I got in the living room anyways, so...
Yeah.
Like a real release like that, I'd absolutely love, but then you take like a lot of them now where they're like remastering like Xbox 360 and PS3. I mean, those aren't super out of date, and just to re-release them on the new systems kind of feels like they're trying to milk money out of you, but
Yeah.
I guess yeah, I'm not a programmer, so I don't know how much work would go into that. It might be a super ton, it might not be anything. So I really can't judge them on that. I'm not gonna buy a new re-release every system, so to me...
I think it bugged out on me.
Did it? Oh yeah. You might have to quit and go back in. What ended up happening?
I don't know. I kept trying to go to like the right, and it's like, yeah. Now I can't continue the game.
That's odd.
I have to
which is
start
weird,
over.
'cause I didn't have any issues with this. That's crappy.
Yeah.
I played it like 3 or 4 times and never had an issue. That's odd. Must just be you ended up running into a bug.
Yeah.
And then for like the first expansion, because DLC, I think I go into this later on. I actually do, so I'll wait to explain it. The history of DLC itself actually goes way back into like the 80s, and then into like the 90s and sorts, as player made like mods or modifications. There's a few instances of DLC before that. I think I ended up rearranging some of my stuff because I'm a moron. But there were a few. Let me see if I can try to find it. No, maybe not. I know there were a few games like early on in video gaming that ended up essentially releasing expansion packs, but nowhere to near like what they are now.
Yeah.
Let me get back to where I was. Yeah, in the 80s and 90s, internet was nowhere near available as it is now, cheap or even advanced, especially with like dial-up and stuff. The first thing I remember about internet is that stupid dial-up. You had to have the dial-up tone, so if you wanted to get on late at night, like when your parents were sleeping, there was no chance of that because the modem would screech out and wake everybody in town up. And then even to like load some web pages took like 10+ minutes at least. And then we were so far out, you'd be lucky to even load a page at a time. And then games. So this made it so games obviously weren't updated anywhere near like what they are now, because you'll have some games where they'll release at midnight and there'll be a download for an update within a couple of minutes. By the time you install the game, essentially you're installing an update as well sometimes, just because they might have figured something out in that amount of time. And then any new content for these games, obviously before the time of internet, would require a whole... Did it bug out again on you?
It did. I think it's because I hit escape.
Maybe. Did you hit it again? What are you trying to do? You're trying to go to the left?
No, I think I just hit like the escape button on accident, and then now it's like, nah, you're done.
That's weird. I have no idea. You've had more issues in this than I have the whole time I've played it.
I would.
It's normally a fine game. I ended up completely beating it that one night. But yeah, I was on any new content would obviously have to be purchased, because in order for them to release more content for a game, they'd have to release the disc, a case, and a manual, which is back in the time when games actually included manuals. I have the original Empire Earth, and this manual is 238 pages, and it's the size of a textbook. It's like one of the best and most in-depth manuals I've ever seen. And so, if a creator was going to release DLC, they had to make it worth releasing a whole new game. Diablo was one of them, actually, that I saw that ended up like releasing a game. The early StarCrafts I know did, where they would end up releasing expansions for the game. Which this led people who are good with game modifications, they'd be able to make mods and stuff for the game, which then you'd have to go in and change or download new files, which I'm not too keen on how mods work. I've never really modded games. The only one I actually modded was Wasteland 2. I ended up watching a YouTube video on how to change that, and I ended up going in and changing all my player stats to max so they had all the skills they could get.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I get a little like overboard when I try and mod like Skyrim or any of the Fallout games, because I'll break it.
I was gonna say, yeah, because then that's one of the things too where you run the risk of if you put mods that conflict, then you have to try to do those. I've never really been into them. I've never had the time.
Oh, not even just that. Like I put in there that it's like, well, I'm broken now. I'm just gonna kill everything.
Oh yeah, where it makes you super powerful.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, because didn't they like make an Iron Man DLC for like either Oblivion or Fallout where you could just essentially kill everything?
I think they did for both of them. There's also one for I think it was Grand Theft Auto 4. Somebody put out like an Iron Man mod.
Oh really? Nice. One of the first games that appear to have had an actual
Did it again?
I have no idea. I don't know what's going on with yours. Did you want to try to uninstall and reinstall it real quick?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I exit the game and then come back into it. That is weird.
Yeah. I'll pause here real quick. Just so that way we can cut this video out. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with your stuff. I had no issues with it.
There we go.
Oh.
If I like exit out and then come back in, I'm good.
Okay. Yep, the first game that appears to have steady stream of DLC was actually Total Annihilation, which a few articles I read said it going back as far as 1997, but I was able to check as far back as 1999 on a website called the Wayback Machine Internet Archive, where you can actually see how websites progressed through various dates in history, which was actually pretty interesting. But you could actually see where Total Annihilation creators Cave Dog Entertainment offered free DLC, where you could go on there and download like new units and scenarios and stuff over the internet, which with the game being quite a bit older would have been a lot more simple and wouldn't have been as large of files that you would have had to download. So that's probably why they were able to update them. Yep, then Sega Dreamcast and PlayStation 2 were some of the first systems that were actually capable of internet access. That one, it was hard to find out if they were actually able of updating games. Most sources really didn't say. They said the PS2 was limited and got a DVD update via a disc, and then an HHD update from firmware later on, but a lot of the resources I could find weren't very specific. Even if they could update games, both of their like memory cards were so small that it wouldn't hold very large updates. So...
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really think they put out updates, if any, for like PlayStation 2 as far as games go, just because there's no real big internal storage on those.
No, it was all memory cards, so there wasn't really any way to. I just couldn't find a definitive fact. Like there was some that said, "Oh yeah, you could update them," and then there were others that were like, "There was no updates," and so it was kind of split on that. But both could connect to the internet, and it was mostly for online multiplayer capabilities. Even in like the early 2000s, phones actually started getting where they could update their games. One example I found online was Space Impact on the Nokia, which when web browsers were introduced to phones, they could actually update the software of the game, which they could add extra levels, updates, stuff like that to games. Even like Snake, which I tried to use for like the artwork for the podcast that I did horrible on, but can't complain. It's my second time painting, so... oh yeah, now before we go into a majority of the information, I actually want to go over a really good article I found on Kotaku? Yeah, right, Kotaku. By Ethan Levy about DLC and how it helps games. And then, before any of our listeners get out their torches and pitchforks, hear me out on this. In his, he makes a really good argument about why you should. Even with the average game being about $60, I'm just gonna go with the base game, not like the collector's editions and stuff where you get physical stuff and other little knickknacks and downloadables.
Like
weapon
pre-order
skins
bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, like weapon skins. That's a whole different monster. I don't even think I went into that one on here. I don't know. I've gotten tired of like the pre-order weapon skins and stuff like that. It's been more of a pain than anything most of the time, and generally it's not even all that worth it to me.
No, it's not.
But yeah, like I said, I had logged 250 hours in New Vegas, and you gotta think I bought the collector's edition for that for, I don't remember what it was at the time. Probably $100, I would say. So if you take that math, I got 2.5 hours per dollar out of that game.
Dang.
Which, yeah, say then I paid $50 for the DLC. That still comes out to $1.6 per hour. Which, if you think about it, there's not much you can do in America, much less anywhere else, for 1.6 hours. That's $1, unless you like go to the park somewhere free.
Yeah.
But like an arcade, you can't stay there that long. The casino, I mean, if you win, you would technically be better off. But then if you lose, you're losing on a larger scale.
I'm gonna just say, I got some hours on some of my games. We're not gonna say, but a lot.
Yeah, most of the Fallouts, like the other one, I think Fallout 4, I've got a few hundred hours on. Probably like 800. I don't think I played that one quite as much.
Yeah, I will say, as far as DLC for them goes, I think New Vegas had my favorite.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was a few top 10 lists I looked at, and it seemed to come in on a lot of them. What was the Burned Man? The one where he was bandaged because he ended up getting burned.
Yeah. That was like the Caesar's like right-hand man that, like, I guess turned against him or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he did something that irked him, and they ended up like burning him and throwing him off a cliff or something.
Yeah, that was like one of them. Like that and Elder Scrolls, all of them had like DLC on the top list that I could find, and it was pretty consistent where it went.
Yeah.
It was on a few different lists where they come out with some good DLC, and that's why 76 confuses me like nothing else. That was
yeah, like they put out like some decent stuff, and then they put out 76, and I was like, the heck are you doing?
Yeah. Ethan goes on to explain that once a game is released, most companies go through like a layoff cycle of their staff. So as the game completes, there's no further work for them to do. So essentially their celebration party for the game's release is a farewell party for a huge portion of the staff, because you then go down to like bare bones staff just to get the next content for the game ready, and that doesn't require as many people. So DLC allows game creators to keep the staff on and working. Granted, they don't do like some companies do and just create all the DLC before it's even released, which could in turn make it so they can update the game more often for free. This would allow them to patch like bugs and stuff in the system. And now, do all companies give the free releases? No. I mean, well, for the base things, yes, for bugs and stuff like that, but not for like DLC. A lot of them, pretty much once you get the game, unless you buy something, you're not really going to get anything else.
I think one of the few companies that's a good example of doing that, like giving out free stuff, is CD Projekt Red with The Witcher 3.
Didn't Overwatch do that too, though? They did it right, where they gave the free DLC, the new characters and stuff.
Oh yeah. They every time they put out like a character or a map or something, that's been free, which has been nice.
Yeah, which some companies do, and I mean, I like their system where they do that and then give the optional loot boxes where you can get different skins and stuff.
I mean, Overwatch, everything like that you can pay for has been like cosmetic, and you can earn everything too just through gameplay.
Yeah, it's usually like I think Battlefield 5 or the Battlefield games are another one where I actually found where you can buy all the upgrades that you can get. I think I go into this later on, but you can buy all the upgrades you could get from leveling up. So, I mean, do I agree with that? Kind of, because if you don't have the time to play and you just want to screw around with all the good gear, then if you got the money, go for it. But then again, if you don't have the money, and I don't know, it's a whole different thing that's up for debate.
There are some games though that just put out like ridiculous amounts of downloadable content.
Yeah, and
Like-
and loot boxes.
Yeah, there have been some, I think a couple of fighting games. I think, was it Dead or? I think Dead or Alive might have been one of them where they had like all the DLC they had was like total up to over $1,000.
Yeah, that I go into that later on about World of Tanks. I ended up getting an email on Black Friday about them. All their DLC that you could buy for their game was half off, and it still came up to about $1,000.
Jesus.
Being half off, you could get everything in the game for about $1,000. Then yeah, like we're talking about, not a lot of them. There are some companies out there that don't try to push microtransactions or small DLC packages to pad their profit margins, but some. Okay, yeah, that don't. And Stardock was actually one that he talked about that he had worked for with the game called Fallen Enchantress, and they also make Galactic Civilizations. They actually used the DLC to keep the staff on, and they used this because the game was popular, but it wasn't popular enough to warrant a sequel at the time. So DLC allowed them to add on to this game that was liked without it just being a game that died off due to not getting a sequel. That's what word I was looking for now. He also describes, that hiring and firing process where hiring on more staff is time consuming, it takes away from the efforts of the game, it takes out of the budget. Which again, I feel like this is a plus. He mentions how if you keep the staff on, you're less likely to see changes in the game or being like contracted out to another company that may drive the game in a different direction. One I actually saw, I believe, was the Diablo, the early series. They actually contracted out the expansion pack, which the game designers ended up changing the ones they contracted it to so much that it wasn't nowhere near as well received as the original was, which DLC could be a way of preventing this, as it won't lead to team changes later on, and potentially could even squash that for sequels as well. So I mean, if you end up loving a game, you get the same staff and you get the same game potentially. I mean, unless they make major changes. As I see it that way, a company could pump out endless amounts of quality DLC if they wanted, and if it's a good game that I like, I will keep buying it. I don't mind doing that, especially when it comes to creating a whole new game that's essentially going to be the same, just with a different story. Especially like the Fallouts. I mean, I like Fallout 4, but I loved Fallout New Vegas. They could still be creating DLC, and I'd still be buying it.
I think there's actually a modding project going on right now to take Fallout 4 and make Fallout New Vegas using the assets from it.
Oh really? That'd be awesome. And then one of the alternatives he said to... Oh wait, not him. One of the alternatives I saw to this are actually subscriptions, which can create a massive amount of revenue, such as like Blizzard did with World of Warcraft, obviously. Where then they do actually sell expansions, which I mean, I don't know if I agree so much with that, because if you're paying for a subscription, they should give you the expansion packs, but I don't know. World of Warcraft players are pretty diehard, so I'll give it to them. I mean, there's a lot goes into that game. That game has changed a lot over the years.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I can see where that one gets DLC, but there are some others where if you're paying a subscription fee, there's no reason you should be paying for DLC as well. And then the downfall to this is I obviously don't want to pay for a subscription fee to every game I play.
Yeah.
Because if you end up doing that, they're just gonna nickel and dime you a lot to like where all these subscription services are doing for like Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, where they're just gonna get to the point where people are gonna pick one and just do that because nobody wants to pay for 90 different services.
Oh yeah, that's getting old quick.
Yeah, because all you're doing is paying for a half a dozen services that you're using when you watch one show at a time. So, I mean, that's a pain. I don't want games to go to that. I'd rather pay for like quality DLC than paying some subscription like that.
Yeah.
And then he talked, or sorry, I keep saying he because I accidentally left this stuff together. But there was a thing about season passes, which I hate buying season passes now, especially because you have to put the money up front, and then you have to hope the DLC is good. You're not even, don't even really get a choice on if you pay for it. You don't end up knowing if it's gonna be good. Sometimes they could promise something amazing and then end up with garbage.
I've gotten burned on that a few times.
Yeah, there's been a few games where I ended up buying it and then didn't even really play the game, so I ended up buying the game and the season pass. And ended up just essentially screwing myself out of like $100 on a game that wasn't even all that good that I wasn't interested in.
Oh yeah.
Then one of the first like large-scale DLCs I actually found, which I kind of knew about, was The Sims, which was released on February 4th in 2000 for PC. The first one would actually spawn 7 different expansions that were generally released via new discs in store, especially due to this time. Obviously, internet wasn't very advanced. Now, 7 seems like a lot, and I mean, it kind of was. Sims kind of started off being expansion heavy, but each one would end up adding things like careers, pets, new areas, items, like science fiction stuff, celebrities. And back in this time, it was a pretty innovative game, so 7, I mean, it wasn't too bad, but it has gotten absolutely ridiculous. I ended up going through and going to Sims 4. Sims 4 has 8 expansion packs at $40 a piece, 8 game packs at $20 a piece, and 16 stuff packs, which is just like items, clothes, and stuff like that, for $10 a piece. And the stuff packs generally only add like some furniture, art, clothes, and stuff like that. They never really add all that much. Such as like the Laundry Day stuff pack added like 20 pieces of customizables and 48 items. And I mean, EA giving this away wouldn't be much of a loss to them just to give some items away. Yet they try to sell it. And I did the totaling. Purchasing the entire series of DLC would cost $640. And even if you grab them on their half off sales, you're still going to end up paying like $320 just to get all that stuff if you wanted to complete the whole series.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
And that ain't even to mention that, I don't know if this carried over to 4, but for 3, you could actually, there was microtransactions as well where you could buy single pieces of furniture as well. And I mean, this is kind of a small complaint, but like I played it the other day just to go back and mess around with my sim. And there's so little you start out with in the beginning of the game. I mean, there's quite a bit where you got some stuff to do and some furniture to buy and you got some choice. But then to nickel and dime you over minor things like a different kitchen sink seems moronic. And yeah, and then I completely forgot I went back into explain the World of Tanks things for Black Friday where it ended up being $1,000 for the DLC, which is absolutely insane.
That is ridiculous.
I mean, I think I bought one of the tanks when I used to play it big that I liked, but $1,000 is ridiculous for one game. I mean, I get that it's free, but that is just absolutely insane. And then, oh yeah, queue microtransactions and have your cash ready. What are microtransactions? Essentially, we've explained it already, especially with The Sims. They're game items such as single weapon skins,
crap.
maps.
Didn't think I could kill the gunsmith.
Oh, you can kill everybody. Now that you got the gun, you can even shoot the... Go back and shoot the sale guy. The store guy you just went past. Go back and shoot him.
Oh,
now go talk to him.
okay,
you can talk to him even though he's dead.
Ha ha ha!
Yeah. Yeah, they added some pretty funny things into this game. I mean, for $3, I think I even got it on sale, so it was even less than that. It's a pretty nifty game for a couple dollars. And then, yeah, microtransactions generally would have been what would have been in larger DLC packs, such as expansions. But then it goes to, no, I mean, not for some games. I gotta make that clear. Like for PUBG and stuff, where you can get like the weapon skins and stuff, that obviously wouldn't be including DLC packs. But I think some, like Xbox, will actually allow you to buy things separately, which this will be good. This is good and bad, which I'll explain here in a bit. From everything I could find, one of the first instances. I'm a moron. Instances of this came with the Xbox 360. Microsoft used the Xbox Live Network that in place to not only allow you to play multiplayer games, you could also buy Microsoft points, which then could be used to purchase various items, such as expansion packs, DLC, and these microtransaction type items.
I am not a fan of that point system at all.
No, they ended up changing it. It's now the dollar system.
Oh yeah, but that entire system was essentially set up to make it so that you would buy some points, use it to redeem them for something on the store, and then you'd have like just a couple points left over.
Enough to buy anything new, but then
yeah,
to where you'd have to buy more to buy something.
Right.
Now you have to go into the DLC. In which, I mean, they changed that, but one of the best examples I can think of for this being a thing I'm alright with for the microtransactions is like Rock Band and Guitar Hero. With this, you can purchase single songs, which leaves you with the option of picking the songs you actually like without having to buy every song from a single artist or an entire pack. Which I fully support this type of thing for games, as it allows you to buy what you want without forcing you to pay for 10 other songs that you wouldn't enjoy so much. You can continue on. You can go into the DLC. Yep. I think I got a couple minutes of info left. Otherwise, I should be done shortly after. And then, for this, why would you want to pay for numerous things you don't want to play when you could pay a vastly smaller amount, get a single item you want, and be just fine with that? Yeah, and then one of the most debated pieces was obviously the horse armor from Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, which angered gamers and was mocked by a lot. I mean, it's still one of the huge things that people mock, obviously, with this game. This is expanded to many games such as like Battlefield, Battlefront, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and other games, using these microtransactions and making them available in their games. Didn't Star Wars Battlefront start out where they actually had the loot box system was the only way to get some certain items?
I think Battlefront 2 had that.
Or Battlefront 2, where like, yeah, you couldn't level some things up unless you got them in a loot box, right? Was what it was.
Yeah, and that made a lot of people unhappy.
Well, yeah, because then essentially, if it's a kid whose parents are loaded, then they can just keep sinking money into it to buy them, as to where, you know, somebody who has bills to pay can't get that certain unlock. And I mean, that's one of the things where I don't see it as fair. I mean, if you're doing well off, that's good for you, but then again, to force somebody to pay for something to get it,
Yeah.
compared to, like, I mean, the whole leveling system where if you want to pay for that and you got the money, whatever, but to make them pay for something that they wouldn't otherwise get is a little asinine to me.
Oh yeah.
And once we get some listeners, if they want to chime in with what they think, what are your views on it? Do you oppose like DLC and microtransactions? Where do you draw the line on what game creators should be able to put into their games? You can send a voice message in with that or email us. I don't mind the minor cosmetics that you can get and paying for those loot boxes, but when you go as far as Battlefront 2 originally did and try to make us pay to obtain those upgrades, that's where it kind of becomes an issue and something where, I mean, you eventually got to put your foot down on it.
Yeah.
One of the final things we're going to go over to is loot boxes. This is the only aspect of the topic where I could find government-backed articles on the issue, actually. The Federal Trade Commission is currently doing research on it. As they stated, 100 of the top 100 top grossing games, 54% of them contain loot boxes, so 54 games. The biggest issue with loot boxes is they're comparable to slot machines and can exacerbate gambling addictions and may potentially lead like kids into being gambling addicts, because it gives that same rush that gambling does, because you sit there waiting and hoping you get the right thing, and then if you don't, you're kind of disappointed. But then if like you hit something good on your first go, then you get that insane rush that gambling brings. And then this is based on the fact that they see it as an issue, because you may have to pay for numerous boxes and you never even get the one item you're looking for, because it's all based on a statistical system where you have a certain chance of getting that. And then, again, this is the argument where, some people argue that loot boxes keep the cost of video games down, but then again, a lot of games that do the loot boxes are either huge titles or free games. And so it's kind of one of those trade-offs where, do you think loot boxes actually keep them down, or is this a thing where they're just trying to get you to sink money into a game trying to obtain one item? So, and again, if anybody listening hasn't... Goodness. I can't even think of what I was thinking of. An opinion. Has an opinion on that, feel free to chime in and tell us. Let us know. If you go to Anchor, we can actually play your message. But I apologize for only hitting a portion of the DLC and the whole evolution, but this was a lot of information, and it gives us stuff to go into later on. It's been almost like 45 minutes as it was. It's a very branched topic where we can go into the specifics. We can go into loot boxes. I can try to find some articles on their effect on kids, what certain states are taking law-wise. I know the government's looking into it, so this episode in general, just a rough overview, paves the way for a lot of better episodes later on. And then, what did you think of DLC Quest, Casey?
It's alright. It's got its charm.
I was gonna say, it's a cheeky little game. Yeah, I didn't compare the info to it very much because it's pretty obvious. The whole point of the game is collecting coins to buy upgrades, to collect coins to buy upgrades, to collect coins.
Yeah.
And buy all the upgrades. Which, I like that it points fun at a lot of the bigger titles that use DLC and stuff to make huge profits, especially on stuff that they should not be. So,
What
I
is
haven't
that?
even played this one that you're playing right now.
Okay.
I thought you were just going to save the princess.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this one, but
Yeah, it must be a whole second game.
what is that? I
Because
think it.
normally the first one ends and it's like, oh, you can continue, and then you can go back into it, and then you can like buy the expansion to actually save her, and then the horse comes in and kills the guy, and then the girl and the horse run off together.
Oh yeah, I must have missed that.
But yeah. So that's it for this level. Is there more information out there to be discovered? Of course, especially with this topic. But if you enjoyed the episode, listen to our other 3 podcasts so far. They're a little dry. We're still trying to tweak things and get things down to an enjoyable level where people will truly enjoy the game. You can contact us if you have any changes, ideas, topic, game suggestions, or anything really your heart desires. You can contact us through the Knowledge Tree Gaming Facebook page. If you go to anchor.fm, you can actually send us voice messages we can play on the podcast. You can email us at knowledgetruegaming@gmail.com. And yeah, as we're just starting out, any information you can give us, any suggestions will be super helpful. And it'll help us get a bigger audience. We can do more intense games. We still got Dragon Lore to do, which we had skipped over because this one was done now. I want to do like the Fortnite, the battle bus, to see if that's feasible, to have a hot air balloon carry a bus, which I think that'd be an interesting thing to look into.
Oh, you're gonna make me play Fortnite, aren't you?
I sure am. I was gonna keep it a surprise, but unfortunately I ruined it.
Oh, that's evil.
I know. If my brothers were here, they'd play it. But
All right, but we're doing it on console because I don't want any of that Epic Game crap on my PC.
the Epic spyware on your stuff. That's fine. You have anything to close out with on the topic or anything like that?
Not too much. I do know, what is it? Borderlands 3 had a fun little side quest where, you're beta testing like some VR game and it has like microtransactions that it literally will not let you proceed until you pay for the microtransactions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Yeah, and see, there's all sorts of other stuff we can do on. I mean, it's just microtransactions and DLC are one of those things where it's become like a newer problem and more of a pain, just because some companies take advantage of it. So that's one of the things where, I mean, it may never change. It depends on gamers, and if we stop supporting the morons that do it, like, I get Fallout 76 is fun, but if we pay them for that single player subscription, they didn't learn anything from it. All they're doing is making money. And so it has really no bearing on them because they don't care. If they can pump out something that makes money, then they're going to keep doing it.
Pretty much.
But yeah, that's it for this episode. You enjoyed it? Like us as always. Share us with your friends. Get us a bigger following so we can get some more information. Here comes the outro.
We survived the quest, but were we successful? We need you to bring forth more knowledge and continue the fight. Till next time,